Welcome to Fear Spiral, the channel where we uncover the strangest and most terrifying true encounters. Tonight, you'll hear 3 chilling Walmart stories that will make you think twice about shopping late at night. Make sure you watch until the end. And if these stories creep you out, leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The Night Shift Stalker. I worked the overnight shift at Walmart for about 3 years while I was in college. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work. And honestly, for someone like me, quiet, not really into parties, focused on saving money, it wasn't the worst job in the world. Most nights my shift was the same thing on repeat. Clock in at 10, stock shelves, take a short break in the back room, and leave around 6 in the morning. The store after midnight was a different world. The buzz of customers, the ringing of registers, the beeping of scanners, gone. Just the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional squeak of cartwheels echoing through the empty aisles. There were maybe 5 of us working the floor each night. Sometimes I'd cross paths with them in the break room or on the walkies, but mostly, it felt like I had the store to myself. That night started no different. I had been assigned to the home goods section, bedding, lamps, some decor. I actually liked that section. It was tucked away in the back, away from the automatic doors where the last stragglers lingered. By 1 a.m., the customers had cleared out, and security locked the doors. That's when I noticed something was off. I was cutting open a box of pillows in aisle 19 when I felt it, that prickle on the back of my neck, like someone was staring at me. I looked up, and sure enough, at the far end of the aisle, a man was standing there. He wasn't wearing a vest, wasn't holding stock, wasn't carrying a cart. Just standing, watching. I froze with the box cutter still in my hand. Can I help you?" I asked. The man didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly like he was studying me. And then in the blink of an eye, he was gone. At first, I thought maybe it was one of the overnight crew just messing with me. But the uniform was wrong. And the way he vanished. Too quick. I walked to the end of the aisle and peeked around the corner. Nothing. Just the long, empty stretch of tile leading toward the garden section. I told myself I was tired. Lack of sleep. My mind playing tricks. But an hour later, while stocking lamps in aisle 21, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging their shoes across the floor. I peeked out of the aisle. Empty. I waited. Silence. I went back to my box, but the sound returned. Closer this time, I turned my head and my stomach dropped. There he was again, the same man at the far end of the aisle. Tall, pale, with stringy black hair hanging in front of his face. His hoodie looked damp around the sleeves and his jeans were torn at the knees. His eyes, what little I could see through the strands of hair, looked bloodshot. "Sir?" I called, my voice cracking slightly. "We're closed." "You can't be here." He didn't answer. Didn't move. Just stared. I grabbed my walkie and pressed the button. "Mark, there's a guy in aisle 21. Did someone get locked in?" Static. I tried again. "Mark, you copy?" Nothing. When I looked back down the aisle, the man was gone. I tried to shake it off. I told myself maybe I was seeing shadows, that the long aisles played tricks with depth. But then I walked into toys and everything changed. The toy section at night is creepier than you'd expect. Rows of dolls, action figures, stuffed animals, all staring blankly under flickering fluorescent lights. As I rolled my cart past the dolls, I noticed something off. One of them was missing its head. The plastic neck was jagged and broken, as if someone had ripped the head clean off, and sitting in the empty space on the shelf was a folded piece of paper. I picked it up with shaky hands. Written in uneven black marker were 2 words. "I see you." My throat went dry. This wasn't a trick of the light. Someone was here and they wanted me to know it. I dropped the note and bolted for the break room. My manager, Mark, was supposed to be there, filling out paperwork. I swung the door open, praying to see him, but the room was empty. His jacket was still draped over his chair. His half-drunk coffee sat on the table. His phone buzzed with unread texts. But Mark wasn't there. I stood frozen, heart pounding. And then the intercom above me crackled to life. At first, just static. Then a voice, low, raspy, "Clean up." Aisle 19, the bedding aisle, the one I started in. Every instinct in me screamed not to go back. But something about the voice, it wasn't Mark, it wasn't anyone I recognized. And I had to know. I gripped the box cutter tight and walked back to aisle 19. The second I turned the corner, I stopped dead. Mark was on the floor, his blue vest soaked in something dark, his body twisted unnaturally. His eyes were open, staring at nothing, and standing over him was the man. Up close, he was worse. His skin looked gray, almost waxy. His lips were cracked and pale. His clothes smelled like mildew. He looked at me, raised one finger to his lips, and whispered, "Shh." The lights above us flickered and went out. I ran. I don't remember choosing a direction. I just ran, my shoes squealing on the tile. I weaved through aisles, knocking over displays, my chest heaving. The store was pitch black except for the faint glow of emergency lights. Shadows stretched across the floor, twisting with every flicker, and behind me the footsteps followed. Slow, steady. I ducked into electronics, crouched behind a rack of DVDs. My breathing was ragged. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the box cutter. Then I heard it, a dragging sound, like fingernails scraping across plastic. I peeked over the shelf. The man was walking down the main aisle, dragging his fingers along the shelves, making that awful sound. His head tilted side to side like he was listening. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't see me. He stopped, turned his head and smiled. I bolted from electronics toward the front doors. My lungs screamed, but adrenaline pushed me forward. When I reached the doors, I almost cried with relief, until I saw the chains. The automatic doors had been bound with thick chains and a padlock. Not just locked, secured. I pulled and yanked until my hands hurt. Nothing. Behind me, I heard the intercom crackle again. That same voice, low and mocking. "You're not going anywhere." I spun around, heart hammering. The store stretched into darkness, and from that darkness the man stepped into the faint emergency light. I don't remember much after that. Just flashes, running again, my legs like lead. The sound of shelves crashing as he knocked things over. A hand brushing my shoulder in the dark. Then nothing. When I came to, I was lying on the pavement outside. The morning sun was rising and a police cruiser sat nearby. An officer crouched over me asking if I was okay. They told me a jogger had found me unconscious in the lot around 6 a.m. They searched the store top to bottom. No mark, no intruder, no note, and every single security camera, file from midnight to sunrise, corrupted. Static.corporate chalked it up as me passing out from exhaustion. They claimed Mark must have left without clocking out. That there was no intruder, but I know what I saw. 2 weeks later, I was at home trying to forget. I had quit Walmart. I couldn't set foot in that building again. That morning, I opened my mailbox. Inside was a folded piece of paper. No envelope. No return address. When I unfolded it, my blood ran cold. It was written in the same messy black marker as the note in the toy aisle. "I see you." And underneath it, "Something new soon, Story 2, The Child in Aisle 12. The Child in Aisle 12. I've always been a night owl. My work shifts usually ended around 11 p.m., and by the time I got home, I wasn't tired enough to sleep. More often than not, I'd run errands after midnight. Walmart was always my go-to. Open 24 hours, quiet, nearly empty, and with shelves fully stocked. It was perfect. That particular night, I headed there around 12:30 a.m. My fridge was empty, and I figured I could beat the daytime rush. The parking lot was mostly deserted except for a handful of cars belonging to employees. The inside of the store felt almost eerie. Bright fluorescent lights overhead, the hum of freezers, the occasional squeak of my cartwheels. It was also sterile and hollow. There were only a few employees around. I spotted one stocking in produce and another in electronics. A single cashier sat at the front, scrolling on her phone. Other than that, the store felt abandoned. I started in groceries, tossing a few things in my cart. Milk, bread, frozen meals. Everything was normal until I got near the frozen section. That's when I first heard it. A faint sound, muffled, almost like crying. At first, I ignored it. Walmart is a huge store. Maybe a kid was crying on the other side of the building. Parents bring their kids at weird hours all the time, but something about it unsettled me. The cry wasn't a tantrum. It didn't sound whiny or angry. It sounded pained. I stopped, listening harder. The sound came in waves, short, soft sobs. I slowly pushed my cart, trying to trace it. It grew a little louder as I approached the center of the store toward the toy section. I turned down aisle 12. Rows of dolls, action figures, bikes, and board games lined the shelves. The aisle stretched long and empty under the buzzing fluorescent lights. The crying was louder now, but the aisle itself was empty. "Hello?" I called, half expecting a small child to peek out from behind a shelf. "Are you lost?" The crying stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable. My voice echoed faintly, then nothing. Just the buzz of the lights. I waited. Nothing moved. Uneasy, I turned my cart around and wheeled it quickly toward another section. But as I left toys, I swore I heard the faintest giggle behind me. I tried to brush it off. I wasn't in the mood for creepy late-night thoughts. I told myself maybe the crying came from another aisle, maybe even a phone video playing somewhere. But as I shopped, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed. Every time I stopped to grab something, the air felt heavier. My nerves were on edge. Then near the cleaning supplies, I heard it again. The crying. This time it was closer. Directly behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly knocked over a display of paper towels. No one was there. But when I looked down, my stomach dropped. On the floor, right behind my cart, was a doll. It wasn't from that aisle. It was one of the baby dolls from Toys, still in its box. Only the head was missing. The jagged plastic neck was hollow, snapped clean. Chills ran down my arms. I backed away, my breath quickening. I looked around, searching for an employee. The store seemed emptier than ever. And then, from the overhead speakers, the intercom crackled to life. At first, just static. Then faintly, the sound of a child crying filled the entire store. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself back toward aisle 12. I needed to know if someone was there. Maybe a prank, maybe a lost child, but my instincts screamed otherwise. The aisle looked just as empty as before. Rows of dolls lined the shelves, their glossy eyes staring. I froze, one of the dolls in a box. Its plastic mouth was moving, and the crying sound was coming from inside the box. I staggered back, nearly dropping my phone. Then all at once, every doll on the shelves began to cry. The sound was deafening. High-pitched, shrill sobs filling the aisle like a choir of misery. I clamped my hands over my ears and stumbled backward, heart pounding, until I slammed into my cart. The dolls wailed louder, their hollow plastic eyes staring into me. And then, just as suddenly, silence. Every doll went quiet at the exact same moment. That's when I saw her. At the far end of the aisle, a small figure, no taller than 5 years old. Barefoot. Pale. Hair tangled over her face. She was holding a doll, a headless doll. The little girl just stood there, clutching the broken doll in her small hands. Her hair covered most of her face, but I could see her pale skin, her thin arms. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. She tilted her head slowly like a doll herself. I took a step forward. "Do you need help? Where are your parents?" That's when she lifted her head just enough for me to see her mouth. Her lips stretched into a wide, jagged grin that didn't look possible on a human face. The intercom crackled again. This time, a child's voice whispered through every speaker, "Don't leave me." The lights above flickered violently, buzzing and snapping, and then the entire store went black. I froze, blind in the pitch black. My breathing echoed in my ears. Then I felt it. Something small and cold wrapped around my hand. Fingers. Thin, icy fingers curling into mine. I gasped, jerking away. The crying started again, right next to me this time. High-pitched sobs so close they rattled in my skull. I turned and ran, crashing into displays, fumbling for the glow of the emergency exit signs. My cart was long forgotten. As I sprinted, I glanced back once. In the faint red glow of the exit sign, I saw her, the little girl running on all fours fast, too fast, chasing me down the aisle. Her grin was wider now, stretching across her face unnaturally. I slammed into the emergency exit and shoved it open, alarms blaring. Cold night air hit me like a wave, and I stumbled into the parking lot, collapsing onto the pavement. When I turned back, the store was perfectly lit again. The doors stood wide open. Inside, everything looked normal, calm, silent. The alarms had stopped and the little girl was gone. I never went back to that Walmart at night. I couldn't. I even switched to shopping at a different location. But 2 weeks later, it found me again. I had just come home from work. I unpacked my groceries, set them on the counter, and turned toward the living room. That's when I heard soft, muffled crying. It was coming from my couch. My blood turned cold as I stepped closer, and there it was, a doll sitting upright on my couch, headless, its hollow neck aimed straight at me. The Walmart that wasn't there. I was driving cross-country for work last summer. My company sent me on a trip to deliver some equipment to a client 2 states over. I didn't mind. It was good money and I liked the solitude of the open road. It was late one night, maybe around 2:30 a.m., when fatigue really started to hit me. My GPS said there was a town coming up about 15 miles away. I figured I'd stop for coffee and maybe grab a snack before pushing through the rest of the drive. Sure enough, as I came into town, I spotted the familiar glow of Walmart's massive blue sign rising in the distance. It was a 24-hour location, and the lot was surprisingly full for that hour. I pulled in, parked near the front, and headed inside. At first, everything seemed normal. Bright lights, wide aisles, a few customers wandering around, employees stocking shelves. It looked like any other Walmart I'd been in hundreds of times before. But there was something about the atmosphere I couldn't put my finger on. The air felt heavy, stale, like the entire building had been sealed off for too long. And the people, both customers and employees, moved strangely. They walked slowly. Too slowly. Like they were rehearsing being normal but not quite getting it right. I brushed it off, grabbed a coffee from the cooler and wandered toward the snacks. That's when I realized something that made my stomach turn. Every single person in that Walmart was staring at me. I froze in the chips aisle, holding a bag in my hand. From the corner of my eye I could see them. The mother with her cart. The stock boy in the blue vest. Even the old man standing by the freezers. All of them were facing me, staring, not blinking. When I turned my head to look directly, they would glance away, pretending to shop. But the moment I faced forward again, I could feel their eyes drilling into my back. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I was just paranoid from lack of sleep. Maybe this was a weird small-town thing. I made my way to the register. The cashier, a young woman with pale skin and a fixed smile, scanned my items in silence. Long night, huh?" I said, trying to break the tension. She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked up to mine, and for the first time I noticed they weren't the right color. They were gray. Not hazel or blue or green. Solid gray like cement. She handed me my bag without a word. As I turned to leave, I swear every single person in the store had gathered near the front, watching me walk out. The cool night air felt like relief as I stepped outside. I hurried to my car, threw the bag in the passenger seat, and drove off without looking back. The next morning, I stopped at a gas station a few towns over. While paying for gas, I mentioned to the cashier that I had stopped at Walmart nearby during the night. She gave me a strange look. "There's no Walmart in that town," she said. I laughed, thinking she was joking. "No, really. Big 24-hour one right off the highway." She shook her head. "There's never been a Walmart there." My smile faded. I insisted I had gone in, bought coffee, even still had the bag in my car. When I showed her the bag, she frowned. It wasn't a Walmart bag. It was plain white plastic. No logo, and the coffee I had bought, there was no brand label. Just a blank silver can. I couldn't shake it. I had to see for myself. On the way back home 2 days later, I took the same route and pulled into that town again. This time, the lot where I remembered the Walmart being was empty. Not just empty, overgrown. Tall weeds, cracked pavement, a rusted chain-link fence. The building itself was nothing but a collapsed shell, burned out long ago. Windows shattered. Roof caved in. There was no glowing sign, no cars, no people. I got out of my car, heart hammering, and approached the fence. Through the wreckage, I could still see the faint outline of the Walmart logo, burned into the soot-stained wall. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. I stood frozen, replaying that night in my head. The lights. The people. The cashier with gray eyes. Had I imagined it all? That's when I noticed movement inside the ruins. A figure. A little girl. She was barefoot holding a headless doll. She smiled and waved at me before vanishing into the dark. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Walmart, lit up, alive, buzzing with people who weren't really people. But the worst part came a week later. Back home, I was putting groceries away when I heard a sound from my living room, the faint hum of fluorescent lights. I stepped in and froze. My entire living room had changed. The carpet was gone. The walls were white tile. Shelves lined with merchandise surrounded me, and standing at the end of the room were the same gray-eyed people from that Walmart. The cashier was at the front, smiling her too wide smile, and in her flat monotone voice, she whispered, "Welcome back." The lights snapped off and I was gone.